Today on Catherine Learns Stuff, I'm going to walk you through making 3 different sizes of scrunchies using 2 different methods. So let's jump in. When making a scrunchie, one of the things that we need to do is we need to select out some fabric. I've got a few different types of fabric pre-selected that we're going to use to make our scrunchies. Now that I've got my fabric cut out, I've got this fabric for a large scrunchie, a medium scrunchie, and a small scrunchie. The large scrunchie is cut out at 16 by 6, the medium scrunchie is cut out by 14 by 5, and the small scrunchie is cut out 11 by 3. These sizes can be altered so that they're longer or wider for the small, medium, and large. These are sizes that I find are good, but the smaller you make them for the small one or the larger you make them for the larger one, in both length and height, will make them either tighter to the elastic or more loose and vibrant around the elastic. So the option is yours, but I find that these dimensions are really good to work with. For our elastic, what I'm using is I'm just using a 1/4 inch braided elastic strip. You can use thicker or thinner. There's white, there's black, there's a few other different colors. I use white because this is what I have in stock. And what we want to do is we want to cut this at 7 inches. And since I'm making 3 different scrunchies, I need to cut 3 pieces. Now the 7 inches is when they're not stretched out, it's when they're just loose, so we don't want to pull them. And if you're a little bit over or under, that's alright as well. There's 2 ways in which we can sew a scrunchie. I'm going to show you one simple way first, where you just fold the fabric in half and then you sew along the seam of the connection. But you need to make sure to leave about 1 inch at the top and again 1 inch at the bottom. So it's just a quick sew up and down across the joining point of the fabric. So now that we've got our one seam sewn in, what we're going to do is we're quickly going to flip this fabric inside out so that we've got the design on the other side. Now what we're going to do is, before we do any elastic insertion, what we're going to do is we're going to pin the edges of this fabric together so that it stays together and we can do a quick sew. This is the reason that we have this opening here, so that we can actually sew this together and make it work. We want to make sure we do this before the elastic goes in, because the elastic will actually cause it to get really stretched together. We'll get it squished together and make it very difficult to work with. So we've got our pins in, and now we're going to quickly just sew this together with a nice quick seam to hold this together. And now we've got our seam sewn here. Okay, so what we're going to do is snip all these loose pieces that we've got, and we're just going to flip this inside out. Now I've used black thread just so that we could see it while we're doing this, but normally you wouldn't want to use black thread. So now our scrunchie is about 50% done. So what I like to do next is I'm going to take an elastic band here that we're going to use, and our elastic, and I'm going to put one pin, safety pin, into the end, and I'm actually going to connect it to my scrunchie so that I don't lose this end while I'm doing my last bit of work here. And then I'm going to grab another safety pin and connect it into the other side so that I have a hard end to feel while I'm pulling this through. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to quickly pull this safety pin all the way through my scrunchie. And now you'll know my elastic is a lot shorter than my scrunchie, so there's going to be a whole bunch of scrunch happening, which is kind of the point of this. Now there is a tool that you can buy to do this faster, but I don't have one since I don't do this enough. Now I've got 2 ends out of the scrunchie. Before I release this other one, I want to make sure I'm holding on to this elastic so that I don't lose it. I'm going to remove that safety pin. And I'm going to do the same thing with this side. I want to make sure that I'm holding on before I release it because it will go flying through. Now I've got a big ball of scrunch and I've got my elastics here. So quickly I'm just going to give it a good tug and I'm going to knot it through. And that's my knot. I want to make sure I leave a little bit, give it a tug. And now my scrunchie is mostly done. So the last thing I need to do now is I just need to put a little seam in here. And ideally what you want to do is you want to do it with a fabric color that matches your design. But for the purpose of this, I'm going to do it in black so that you can see my final stitch. I'm making sure that we've pulled in all of our little bits here so that it's all hidden in. We're going to just sew this closed with a little invisible line so that it doesn't stay. Now again, I'm using black just for the demonstration, but normally you would want to make this color that matches with what you've got. And now we have a little seam closed in. The smaller you make this section when you're originally putting this together, the smaller this seam will be, but normally, like I said, it would be a different color. And now you have your extra large scrunchie. Now I'm going to walk you through the other method, which is the burrito method. So what I do is I take my fabric and I fold it in half, and I'm going to sew a seam along the short edge here. So that's our first part. So the next bit is a little bit tricky. So that's our first part. So the next bit is a little bit tricky, but it's kind of fun. So we want to grab our ends and roll them up inside here like a burrito. And then what we're going to do roll it up like a burrito so it stays out of our way. And then we're going to grab on to the outer layers of our scrunchie and hold on to those just like so. So now it looks like a burrito. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this in here and pull it down. Now when we're sewing, we want to make sure that nothing here is touching the underneath portion of the fabric, and we're going to sew this shut. I'm going to do this slowly so that this can be pulled through. As we get closer to the end here, what we're going to do is we're actually going to pull, we're going to hold on the far side here, and we're going to pull the burrito portion through so that we've got more fabric to sew. And we're going to do it little by little and keep working our way through. And again, we're going to just pull our fabric through. As we get closer to the end, we keep flipping it through. And then when we get about to an inch or a bit of space left, we're going to stop sewing because we want to make sure that we've got just enough space to flip this whole thing through. So I'm going to give it a back stitch to make sure it stays closed. And now this is ready to be taken off my sewing machine. Okay, so now that our burrito is sewn, what we want to do first is we want to put the elastic through. So I'm just going to use one safety pin here to help me pull this through. And I'm going to pull this through the main opening here while I have this like so, and hopefully grab this other side. And now I'm going to tie my two ends together. And give it a good tug. All right, so now for the simple part. Need to find a hole without dropping this. We're going to just pull this through, and we just need to grab a little portion of this, and it pops through really easily. And that's it. So So the last thing we need to do is we just need to quickly sew this little portion closed. Now ideally what you want to do is you want to sew this fabric with a matching string, but for the sake of this, what we're going to do is we're just going to use the black thread and we're just going to sew this shut. And now your medium scrunchie is done. So I'm going to do the same methods here for the smaller ones, and we'll get back to the workstation in just 1 second. And there you have it. Your scrunchies are done. You've got your large, your medium, and your small. Each one will fit differently on your hair, and each one will provide a different look. The one nice thing is with these scrunchies, you can make lots of different colors, shapes, and sizes to add to your collection of wonderful scrunchies and modify your wardrobe. My favorite method of these two is to use the burrito method because I find that it's much faster. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching.